Hello and welcome to this ISM Trust webinar about promoting yourself and making money from your music. I'm Ruth McPherson, Head of Charity Development at the ISM, and this is the final webinar in a series of 3 ISM Trust webinars to support music professionals during the current cost of living crisis. In previous webinars in this series, we've looked at how you can look after your financial well-being, as well as your mental and physical health. And today we'll be talking about how marketing can help you find work and maximize your earnings. The ISM Trust is the ISM sister charity, and we offer high-quality professional development to everyone working in music. Through the Trust, the ISM gives back to the sector and supports and empowers music professionals to succeed. Before we begin, just a few things to note. During the presentation, please feel free to ask questions using the Q&A function, and we'll do our best to answer these at the end. And keep an eye on the chat box where we'll drop in some useful links. If you experience any technical difficulties, let us know in the chat box and we'll attempt to resolve this. And if you wish to use them, subtitles are available to enable at the bottom of your screen. The webinar is being recorded and we'll share the recording with you after the webinar, as well as a feedback survey. And we'd really appreciate your feedback. It's very valuable to us and helps us to improve future webinars. So without further ado, I'm very pleased to hand over to your presenter, Beth Claridge. Beth has worked in the music industry for over 20 years, mainly with record companies and live festivals, including Glastonbury, Sony, Universal, and United Agents. She's run marketing campaigns for a variety of musicians across the industry, including U2, Stevie Wonder, Fleetwood Mac, Sting, Queens of the Stone Age, Snow Patrol, and Vangelis. Beth has lectured on music at Buckinghamshire New University, and she is also our very own Senior Marketing Manager at the ISM. Thanks, Beth. Over to you.
Thanks, Ruth. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to start sharing my slides with you all. Bear with me. There we go. Hopefully you guys can all see those slides now. So yes, thank you very much, and a warm welcome to everybody online to the ISM Trust webinar, Promote Yourself and Make Money from Your Music. It's quite a broad subject matter. We're going to touch upon an awful lot today. So if you have any specific questions, please do drop them into the Q&A chat, and we will also be available from the ISM afterwards if you would like to discuss anything in more detail. So for those of you who might not be aware who the ISM are, we are the UK's professional body for musicians, ISM standing for the Independent Society of Musicians. We were founded in 1882. We are independent, hence our name. We are a not-for-profit organisation, and we have over 140 years of experience in looking after musicians across the entire sector. We currently support over 11,000 music professionals from all areas of the music sector. And we offer advice, promotion, legal assistance, insurances, and lots of specialist services, including this type of webinar. As Ruth has mentioned, I'm Beth Claridge. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at the ISM, and I'm hoping to share with you some experience and information that I've learned through my time working in the music industry. So let's dive in. What we will cover today, as I said, we've got a lot to cover within this topic. Identifying your audience, which is key for any type of marketing and promotion. Presenting yourself as a brand, websites, search engine marketing, mailing lists, getting the most out of your social media. There's an awful lot of social media available now out there. We can look at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, some of the big ones. It can be quite overwhelming with the amount of social media that is now available within different sectors. Which is why we'll revert back to always thinking about your audience when we're looking at communicating via social media. Maximizing different forms of income streams. There are various, and the importance of evolving and networking as someone who works within the music industry, whether you're a musician, producer, there are going to be various people listening today who come from all different areas of the music industry. So we're going to try and touch upon things that are relevant to everybody. So first of all, identifying your audience. One of the easiest ways to look at this is to break it down and look at different areas to identify your audience and be able to target them correctly. We break this down in various ways. We look at demographic, the age, race, gender, marital status, income, education, and employment of who you need to be seeking out, who your audience is. Everybody has different importances within their lives. Understanding your audience is so important. Thinking about the geographic location of where your audience is, their relationship between the people and their environments, especially, for example, if you're a music teacher, you need to know where they sit, how wide you want to spread the area of your audience, how far you're willing to travel, etc. Looking at people's values, their desires, goals, and interests, their lifestyle choices, understanding where people's priorities are can make it easier for you to communicate with them. This is vital. Your audience is key, and understanding their desires and values is really important in being able to work and communicate directly with them. And this leads on to how people react and how they engage. That's online and offline. Both physical and digital. We will look at communicating in different ways, but it's really important that you don't just look at one, you look at everything and how we communicate and how people behave. The easiest way to really think about this is to become your audience. It's a lot easier said than done, but if you want to be marketing or communicating with a younger demographic, think like the younger demographic, think about students, think about how they communicate, think about what they do, think about what motivates them to get up in the morning. If you're a teacher and you need to reach a very young demographic, i.e. school children, your easiest route to meet them is via parents. So how do parents work? Where do they live? What do they do? Where do they spend their time? What are their lifestyle choices? What are their main values in life? Once you can understand that, it'll give you a far better insight into how you can communicate well with them. An example of this is the hierarchy of needs, which I've put in here just quickly to touch upon. It's based a bit more about from the previous slide, but looking at culture, the idea of the hierarchy is that the closer you get to the top and the more understanding you have, the easier it is to communicate with the audience. In this case, we've put in this diagram is the buyer, but it is easier to communicate directly with them if you understand their culture, social class, their family, their roles within society, their status, their occupation, what their lifestyle is like, their personalities, their economic position, and then leading right up to the top, their motivation, their learnings, their beliefs, and their attitudes. If you understand the audience believes that music is a huge priority to them, that they like being entertained, they want to go to live music events, they want their children to learn musical instruments because they believe it's really important within their beliefs and their attitudes, then it's easier for you to identify where to find them. It's easier for you to communicate with them. So just touching on the 5 E's of audience engagement. You understand your audience, and now you need to go out and find them and engage with them. So the 5 E's of audience engagement: entice. This is really important. Meet audiences in their places and their spaces. I've lectured a lot on this. Please don't put a website up, post something on social media and sit back and wait for people to find you, because they won't. You need to go to where they are. That's why it's so important to understand where they are, understand your audience, and go and find them. Once you've enticed them, once you've met them in their places and their spaces, you will have a far better communication with them. Enlighten them. Focus on the stories that you have to tell. We're going to dive into a bit later on in the webinar about content and the importance of the stories that you have to tell. This is really important. Don't just go straight for the jugular and want to sell them something. You need to give them history. You need to give them an understanding and enlighten them into what it is that you want to talk about. Maintain and prioritize the emotional appeal of your brand. Build upon your brand. Treat audience as important and as insiders to your brand. Never take loyalty for granted. There is so much choice out there. And, you know, the music sector is a very competitive market. So don't believe once you have an audience member, a customer, you've engaged a fan base, don't think that they're there forever, because people move. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as well. And empower them. Rather than maintain the control of your brand, empower your audience, your loyal audience, to become your advocate. It's far easier to spread the word by empowering happy audiences, happy people, happy fans, happy customers. If they're happy, they will talk about you, and they will do the marketing for you. So empower them to do so. Let them tell everybody how great you are as a musician, as a teacher, as a producer. It's how you can get more work. So presenting yourself as a brand. I'm sure a lot of you will be very aware of these brands. I've just picked a few here for you as examples. The X Factor, Apple, Rolling Stones, and that's Jamiroquai at the bottom. These are just examples, visual examples of branding and the identity that certain brands take. Choosing a style and being consistent is key. I think when people automatically look at a brand, they understand the connotations behind it. They know what to get from that brand. Apple have succeeded incredibly well in converting this. You own an Apple product, you're more likely to buy more Apple products. And the brand is, you know, one of the leading brands in the world. Visual identity, think about the colors, think about the fonts, think about how you're presenting yourself and how your brand wants to be identifiable. Think about the tone of your voice. And when I say tone of voice, it's not just the way that you speak, but the tone of voice that you have across all aspects of your communication with an audience. Think about how things are written down. Think about how you're communicating on paper, on a website, visually, through your colors. Understanding your audience. Again, we're going to talk about, this is going to be mentioned an awful lot, and I will repeat it an awful lot. Apologies for that, but it is really important to understand your audience so that you can communicate correctly. And if you're thinking about building your brand, think about who your brand needs to be identifiable to. So think about the color references, think about the fonts used, think about how you communicate through your emails. How are they going to look visually? Think about imagery, photos, and the themes that are going to be used. Perhaps your layout in your emails and your correspondence to your audience is going to be the same every week or every month or every quarter, whenever you're going to communicate with them. So think about the themes and the design element. Consistency is key. And in the messaging, and the quality of what you're messaging is also key. If you're a private teacher, if you're a session musician, people recognize you from your communication style, your imagery, the photos you've used. And whenever you communicate, regardless of how often that may be, instantly they're reminded of the quality of your work, the quality of you as a professional, and the consistency in that can really help get your messaging through. As soon as someone opens an email, they already know, oh, yes, I remember. They're an excellent teacher. I want to read what they've got to say. It's really important to think about these things. So websites, one of your main portals to direct people for information. Like you will be doing with your emails. Again, this comes back to your branding. It's your identity. It's how you look. It's your outward facing communication tool where people will come and have a look at you. So link it all together in terms of your brand. Think about your fonts, think about colors, photography. There's lots of different providers. I think talking about websites, building websites can be incredibly daunting. Oh my God, they're so complicated. They do so many things. There's loads of providers out there who can help you build websites. Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, they all have basic templates. You can set it up. They can host your domain. They can have templates set up so you can build as complex or as simple website that you would like and that you can need. Think very hard about your navigation and usability. Keeping things simple to start with can entice an audience into looking at your website and using it more. Again, I'm going to say it again, think about your audience. Are they very capable of navigating a complex website? Do they just need a few pages with basic information on? How in depth do you want to go? One of the key things here is to think about mobile phones. Everybody is traveling around all the time. So keep your content short, keep it snappy. If you're a music teacher and you're communicating directly with parents who are on the go constantly, they're outside the school doing pickups or whatever it is, they could be sharing information. They might be looking at your website. You might have just sent them an email update. They could be looking at that on a mobile phone. So make sure it's not reams and reams and reams of text, because people will just shut down and stop looking. But it's really important your website will be looked at on mobile phones or iPads as well as computers. So it's important to think about the content of it. So what to put on your website? Well, biography, you need to know about who you are. Music, if you are a player, musician, session musician. Press pack, this can be for both sides. You can look at press packs in two different ways. A press pack can be something of a portfolio of the work that you've done. You know, whether it's video footage, whether it's press cuttings, if you've been featured in magazines or across press and things like that. But the other side of a press pack can also be all the elements that you can give away in order for other people to promote you. So it can be photos that are available to download. It can be a very easy biog that can be used, and text and links and all those sorts of things. So think about your press pack in two ways. One, it's a promotional tool for you to show everyone how brilliant you are and what you've done in the past, but it can also be a tool to be able to easily give people information about you so that they can take it away and look at it or forward it on and pass on to other people. Videos, gig list, contact information, booking page, testimonials, and your website can all be used. You can use Google Analytics to measure what your biggest hits are. Think about your audience. What are they hitting on more important? What bits of your website are having the best interaction, because you can make the most of those bits. Telling a story, your biography, really important. Give background to who you are. Why are you an experienced session musician? Why have you got the passion for music? Where does you come from? Where does it stem from? This is a quick example of our friend Daisy Smith, a girl who went to Glastonbury with her parents and then wanted to be in a band. She's studying at university, but she's already been played on BBC Introducing. Give context to who you are. Show an audience an insight into your life, why you are who you are. You're a teacher because you're passionate about what you do and you want to share your expertise and help educate young musicians on the future of music and being a fantastic player. Give insight into why you do what you do. Tell us why you got into it in the first place. Engage with people. Having an understanding of who you are and where you've come from means that they have a connection with you. And when you have a connection with someone, you're more likely to want to gain more information and communicate. So it's really important to tell the story. So here we go, content and distribution. So we've talked a lot about websites, we've talked about an audience. Your content on what you put out there is king. We've talked about keeping things simple. We've talked about not having huge reams of text that people get bored and don't want to read, save that for your blogs. If you want to do articles, save that for articles that you can post within a certain area on your website or and places like that. Think about how important your content is. Think about the messaging that you want to get across. That's really important. Content is king because that is what will engage your audience. Remember to distribute your content widely. Make sure you are discoverable. In a lot of marketing research has been done over the years. Seeing one thing once does not engage an audience enough to cross them over into buying a CD, buying a ticket, signing up for a new lesson. They have to see things, an audience has to see things in multiple ways across multiple different formats. So it's really important that you don't just put up a website and sit back and hope, one, that people are going to discover you, and two, that that's going to be enough. Think about testimonials, think about people talking about you and what you do. That's really important. And the last thing on this list is viral. I've had a lot of conversations in the past about artists and people who want to promote themselves online. I need a viral video. I want to make it quite clear, you can't make a viral video. You can make a video and you can work and hope that it goes viral, but you can't sit at home and go, I know, I'm going to make a viral video. I've put here, this is a picture of the Foo Fighters. I don't know if anyone remembers the Ice Bucket Challenge. The Foo Fighters were one of the early adopters. The Ice Bucket Challenge just was one of the most amazing viral campaigns. We had presidents of the United States doing the Ice Bucket Challenge, you know, Bruce Springsteen, Foo Fighters here, everybody was doing. When that video was initially put together, no one thought it would do what it did. If anyone can sit back and say, I can make viral videos, you're worth an absolute fortune, because you cannot guarantee viral. I just wanted to explain that. Search engine marketing, SEM. So using Google's My Business profile, you can essentially, using search engine marketing, push your website, push yourself further up the search engine tools that we have across things like Google. When you Google something, search engine marketing, this is quite key. The ads can be targeted based on location. And if you are a local teacher and you only want to be teaching within a certain area, and you're only willing to travel, or you only want to be teaching in a certain area, or a session musician, but you want to keep it quite local, or within a certain area, a certain town, a certain city, you can make sure that your search engine marketing is based on location. There is loads of free advice online about search engine marketing, and I've put here Google Digital Garage is one of the places that you can go and research and look into that in far more detail. Mailing lists. There is nothing better than being able to communicate directly with your audience. And when I mean directly, I mean you can email them. You can actually be in front of them on their mobile phones or in their inbox when they're sat in front of a desk on a computer. Mailing lists are the most direct way to communicate directly with an audience. You can use various different programs for this. There's lots of them that do it for you essentially, and have the setup and the templates. MailChimp, Tiny Letter, Campaign Monitor, there are lots of them available. So you can jazz your emails up, you can jazz up the information that you want to send out. They do templates, you can input videos, you can put photos in there, you can make it a lot more interesting than just text on an email, and that can engage people. This is your engaged audience. Remember, if people have signed up to your mailing list, they want to hear from you. So this is really key. This is your main port of how you can reach people and get in front of them. And these are the people that want to hear from you. Think about your subject lines. Think about your calls to action. What do you want to achieve through your mailing list, through your communication with them, through your emails? Subject lines, how are you going to grab their attention? What is it that you want to be talking about? And your calls to action, how do you want an audience to respond? Do you want them to click through? Do you want them to go to your website? Make it easier for them to do so. Put buttons on there, to do direct links. Don't expect people to read something, then go away and do their own research on it. They won't. So if someone's read an email, if you want them to then look at something else, make it easy for them. Make them touch a button and they can go to where you want them to go. Build an engaged mailing list with frequent and useful communication. So again, this comes down to your content. Your content is king. Make sure that what you're telling them, don't inundate them with emails, because people haven't got the time. You've got to think strategically about how constantly, how regularly you communicate, what you're actually telling them. There's no point in sending the same email over and over and over again, hoping that you're going to get a different response if you haven't already had it. It obviously isn't working. If you send an email and your call to action is to click on something and no one has, then that hasn't worked. So learn from that. Remember to proofread your emails. Sometimes printing it is better. Walk away, come back to it, fresh eyes. You'll see things that you didn't see before. Reading backwards, sometimes look at something in a different way. You can spot things that may need editing or changing. So building your list and GDPR, data protection. Don't ignore this, it's really important. GDPR is so that we have to conform to, we have to ensure that data is protected. You, like everybody else, don't want your data to be shared. You don't want an inbox inundated with marketing material. So respect your audience. If they have shared their data with you, they obviously want to hear from you, but protect it and look after it. Tech is your friend. Sign Up Anywhere is a portal that will help you look after and build your list. At the ISM, we have free webinars on data and GDPR, and we also have advice pages. So if you're unsure about the legislation, the legal side behind GDPR, please have a look. It's not as scary as sometimes it sounds. And it's there to help you. Social media, it's a big one. You've got your website sorted. Now we need to appear on social media. Social media is where discovery happens. It's the engagement. It's where you can share information. You want to keep it professional, but you can keep your professional and private accounts separate. That's something I advise a lot of artists and musicians to do. It makes life easier to run the two. It's useful to have a developed audience in place before a manager comes on board. So social media is where you're going to develop your audience. It's where you can engage with people. And it shows your worth as a musician, as an artist, as a teacher. The bigger your audience, the more power you have. Always point fans towards your owned and direct to fan channels. So through social media, you can direct them back to your website that you control, and it's the content that you put up there. You can direct people directly to your mailing list, to your Bandcamp, Patreon, whatever it is that you're building as part of your platform and your communication with an audience. Social media, you can use it to always point back. Social media is your shop front. And it's your direct to fan, it's your in-store experience. Remember, think about your brand. You want things to look seamless. Adapt your content depending on where you're sharing it. Authenticity is key. Consider what type of content gets good engagement. It can be overwhelming looking at social media as a whole. So start small and just build, even if it's just a page on Facebook. Don't try and do it all in one go. It'll be too overwhelming. So always start small and then you can build upon it. Just examples of here, the use of name, image, and handle across different platforms. As I said before, people like to be able to see things in multiple ways, which is why we've talked about branding, which is why we've talked about imagery and keeping things similar, so that when your audience is looking at things in various ways, they have instantly recognizable relationship with what you're communicating online. So we're going to quickly touch upon various different types of social media. Twitter, huge social media. It's a very fast-paced social media. Maintain your personal tone throughout. Tweet as often as you want and aim for peak engagement hours. Again, this comes back to your audience. Understanding and knowing your audience will give you an insight into when's the best time to engage. Whether is it 8 o'clock in the morning when people are before work? Is it after school hours when students are looking at their social media? Think about who it is that you're communicating with. Think about the different types of rich media you can post: photos, video, GIFs. Don't always post the same things. Tag people in your posts, especially venues, because they will then help market you. You tag people, they will tag you back. Hashtags, really important, because that helps your reach. And maximum, 2 hashtags on Twitter, more as we look at different social medias. Retweet things that your followers might find interesting. It's about engagement, remember. And network, follow and tag relevant fellow musicians and organizations to engage in conversation. Thank people if they send you feedback. And remember, tweet others the way that you want to be tweeted. Really important that you have your standards online. Facebook, everyone seems to think, oh, it's over. It doesn't exist anymore. No one uses it. I'm afraid they do. Everybody still uses Facebook. It's incredibly relevant, especially for event marketing, to have some insight into how many people might be turning up to your event. Create a separate Facebook page to your personal accounts. We've touched upon this already. It's good to keep your personal and professional accounts separate. First person and personal works best. Don't post too much across Facebook. Try and include, again, videos, GIFs. It'll get greater reach. Facebook algorithm loves video. As does Instagram. We'll look at that in a minute. Create Facebook events for your gigs and invite your contacts. This is a good way to tell everybody what's going on. And then you can also link it back to your website if you want to. And you can use Facebook Insights to see which of your posts are reacting best with your audience. Instagram, keep things short and catchy. Your Facebook page is very professional. Instagram can be more personal. It's almost behind the scenes. Video is a massive calling card. People love watching short form video. Use relevant hashtags so that followers can discover you. You can even hashtag similar artists. Include a bio and a landing page, something like Linktree, that then can direct back to your front-facing communication like your website. Use liking and commenting as a way of networking. Post a mixture of media, photos, media, stories and reels. Prioritize video and reels for good engagement. That's what this platform was built upon. And you don't post the same thing on every platform. There's been a lot of research done into this, and across different platforms, when you have the same audience following you, there are different audiences on different platforms. So remember to tailor your content for the audience that's on that actual platform. That's really important. TikTok, this is the short, fun, trendy social media platform. It's the best place to showcase your music. Use lots of hashtags. Follow the trends. You can take part in challenges. Look at TikTok moments. TikTok also have a lot of advice pages for musicians. And interestingly, one of the current trends is acoustic cover versions. It's one of the best engagements across this platform right now. Everybody is loving acoustic cover versions. That's what's been reacting very well. So I'm speeding this up slightly because we've still got quite a bit to get through. Maximizing different forms of income streams. D2C, for people who don't understand what D2C is, this is direct to consumer. This is where you will form an income stream direct from your consumer, whether that's live, selling tickets, teaching, direct to consumer interaction. You teach children, you teach adults, they will pay for that service. That is direct to consumer. You have online forms of income, audio, video, streaming, blogs, tutorial. You can do teaching online. This falls actually into your social media income. Think about YouTube, think about subscribers, income streams. If you are doing some teaching online, regardless of what kind of teacher you are, You can be a mastering engineer and give tutorials and lessons online via YouTube, and you can gain income streams from it through ad income, through subscribers, through endorsement deals, all those sorts of things. Really, really important. Don't think that teaching is only about face-to-face. Use online, use YouTube, use digital assets that you can. Royalties. Think about the royalties you can make from your music via PRS. You have performance royalties and mechanical royalties, that's MCPS, so that's in music that's released. Think about licensing of repertoire, synchronization income when your music is used in advertising or on TV programs, or licensing of repertoire for educational purposes. Other forms of income streams, crowdfunding campaigns, subscriptions. Think about reward loyalty to your fan base. If you offer a subscription service to access certain information, to access video footage, to access tutorials online, reward the loyalty of people who subscribe. Your crowdfunding campaigns, you can look at possibly if you want to release an album, if you want to write a book, whatever it is that you want to do, you can think about crowdfunding so that the product is paid for before you've even started it. Other forms of income, sponsorship, brand partnership, feel confident to approach directly. It's a huge income stream with regards to sponsorship, whether that's gear sponsorship, you know, Roland, various types of music brands love partnership schemes whereby you can have new equipment. You might be part of their promotional, if you're out on tour, they might want to sponsor the tour. Look at music grants. There's a lot of opportunities out there. I think part of all of these things that I'm talking about, I think there's a lot of links going on in the chat to help you. We could dive into this. This could be a whole seminar in itself. And I'm literally touching upon things, but yeah, look up music grants. You'd be surprised at what opportunities are out there. Session work, sheet music, speaker or guest lecturing, all forms of different income, and other products like merchandise, which I'm just going to really quickly touch upon here. I've taken a screen grab here of Amazon. Amazon very recently launched a direct-to-consumer merchandise setup for anyone, effectively, any brands, musicians, producers, whoever wants to launch merch, whether that's your t-shirts for when you go online. The beauty of direct to consumer is means that you're not having to pay for things up front. It means that things are paid for and produced when they are ordered. So it's really important to think about, you build a committed fan base. That's more important than reach. If you have 12,000 committed fans, then you're effectively running a business, because if you're guaranteed 12,000 people are going to purchase something, are going to come to a concert, are going to want to buy your hoodie, then effectively you're running a business. You can understand that, which is why loyalty and rewarding your fans and communication is so important. So they'll be the ones who are committed to your audio streams, buying your tickets, merchandise. So printing on demand is a great option for people who don't want to spend money up front on merchandise. It's one of the biggest incomes. I wanted to quickly look at streaming income because a lot of people just automatically think Spotify, Apple, that's where all the streaming is. And we all know, it's been documented an awful lot, that streaming income is incredibly low for the creatives behind the music. However, there are other options that you can look at. Things like virtual reality fitness apps. Peloton, it wasn't that long ago that Peloton actually, I think where they were being sued because they didn't have the right licensing in place, but they do now. And actually, interestingly, fitness apps and Peloton pay far better in terms of music streaming than your likes of Spotify. So I just wanted to raise that point. Don't think it's just Spotify and Apple. There are loads of other options and loads of other ways to look at streaming income, like fitness apps. So maximizing on different forms of income streams. I just wanted to really quickly touch upon communication. When we do deals, when we communicate with people, a lot of our work is done on the phone, it's in person. I just wanted to point out that it's really important that you follow up any type of communication, any type of deal, any type of invitation to work, follow it up in writing. It's really important. You have a conversation with someone at a gig, you exchange phone numbers, or you get an email address, always follow that up in writing. You meet someone and you know, they want to start learning how to play piano, get an email address because you can follow it up in writing, and then everyone knows where they are. Then within that, you can set out your terms of agreement. You can think about the fee. You can think about the length of term that you're going to be working with someone. You can look at each party's commitments, your payment timescale and your expenses. It's really important to have a paper trail. And when I mean paper trail, I don't mean physical paper. I mean, you can actually identify this was discussed and this was agreed, and a time of when it happened, which is why I always say it's really important to follow things up in writing, because then you know what you're expected and what you're expecting to happen from an agreement. It also means that you have evidence, say if someone isn't going to pay you or says, oh, well, you didn't quite do what we expected. Well, you have it in writing what they wanted from you and how much they were going to pay you. And that's really important. You need to know your rights as to when you're working, especially when you're working with various different forms of income streams. The ISM has a fee survey that can help you understand how much to charge for different things. And we also offer legal advice, and we have an in-house legal team that help all our members with areas to do with contracts and income and everything else. So I'm just going to touch upon that. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. Quickly, the number of music streams needed for an artist to earn a monthly minimum wage. I'm just putting this in here because we're talking about different forms of income streams. I don't want to scare anybody, but in order to earn a minimum wage in the United States, and you're just using a platform like YouTube, you need over 2 million streams effectively, or views a month. That's an awful lot. And there aren't many people who can achieve that. So please think about other forms of income streams. Don't just think in isolation, I'm just going to be on YouTube, because you've got to think about your business. You've got to think about making money. And this actually works quite well, moving into the importance of evolving and networking. The arts are always evolving. Think about new technology. Think about where your audience is moving to. This is really important. I'm sure some of you are probably far too young, but if anyone remembers MySpace, the fatal error that a lot of bands had when MySpace was huge was they didn't move. And as soon as Facebook and other forms of social media started, everyone went, oh, I don't want to have to redo it all again. I don't want to have to restart my page and upload music and do everything. I'm just sticking with MySpace because I like it and my page looks wonderful. Unfortunately for them, because they didn't move, they lost their audience, and their audience moved on to the next thing. Don't stick with where you feel comfortable, because your audience will move. And that's really important. Engage with your audience. When you're evolving and networking, look at your local promoters, go to venues, think about networks, think about your local music hubs, think about this socially, where people are within your town, or within where you need to go out there and find them. If you don't know what your audience wants, ask them. They don't mind. It empowers them. People love to have to be asked their opinion. They absolutely love it. So don't be scared to ask, and don't be scared of the answer. You can do polls, you can do surveys, you can find out exactly what people want. Network as much as you can, and always look out for the new trends, because that'll keep you ahead of everything. Great resources that are good to go and have a look at across everything that I've been talking about today. The ISM has a great series on how-to guides, which are available on the website. We have lots of different free webinars. This one obviously is one of a series, the cost of living crisis, but we have many more as well. There's the Empowered Musician, again on the ISM website. You can look at Google Digital Garage, the CD Baby Unsigned Guide, Music Alley. There's lots of industry advice out there. And the ISM is always here to support and help. It's our job to be on top of all these things, to look at trends, to look at what's going on in the industry, so that we can support and help our members. So please always communicate with us and come and find us if you've got any questions. The other support that the ISM look after for our members, look at advice, promotion, insurance, networking. We have legal assistance. We actually have in-house legal teams that can help our members directly, career development. We have professional status support, lots of discounts, especially currently to help in the cost of living crisis. We offer counselling services, physiotherapy, and a whole community of other musicians and anyone within the music sector, and everybody looks out for each other. It's really nice. We run a members Facebook group, and it's lovely to watch all the members being a proper community, looking out for each other and answering questions and being there as a support mechanism. So it's a really lovely environment. Please follow us. We are on all social medias. We're also on LinkedIn, but our website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram will show you where we are. And sorry, yes, I've put an awful lot into a small space of time. Yes, there's been an awful lot of information in there, and I'm sorry. I've talked at speed to try and keep everything within the hour, and to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have. So I'm going to throw this back to Ruth and see if anyone has any questions. Sorry, I haven't seen anything in the Q&A whilst I've been presenting, or anything in the chat. So I'll stop sharing, and we can see if there's any interaction from anybody.
Thank you very much, Beth. That was fantastic. A lot of information in there.
Yes.
It was very detailed, and I think people probably are keen to see your presentation again. So just to remind everybody that the recording will be available afterwards, and we're going to be sharing that with all participants, all registrants. So you will have access to that recording if you want to watch it back, because as I said, there was a lot of information in there.
Actually, yes, Ruth, just on that point, I just wanted to say, we are asking for your feedback. And one of the reasons for that is, if there's elements within today's webinar that you would like far more information on, Ruth and I can set up other webinars and go into far more detail about certain topics. So please give us your feedback, because we're very happy to help and dive into things in more detail.
Absolutely. Yeah, please do fill out that feedback survey, which we've just popped in the chat, because your feedback is so useful to us, and we can do further webinars on specific topics, as Beth said. So we've actually had some questions before the webinar that people sent to us. So I'm just going to start asking some of those. And if we have more questions live from the Q&A, we'll get through as many as we can. So actually, I'm just going to combine a couple of the ones that we were sent beforehand, because they're quite similar. So someone said, there are so many artists and performers out there, and it feels very daunting to join the noise. Could you recap the best way to stand out? And we also had a comment saying, I find marketing my music and putting myself out there constantly quite overwhelming and stressful, particularly on social media. Have you got any advice on managing this? So they are slightly different. One's more about kind of how do you stand out online amongst all of the noise, but also I think kind of linked to that, there is a mental health element to it, where I think often artists and musicians, music teachers find it quite overwhelming, as you mentioned in your presentation, to be constantly, posting on social. Kind of how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so both really good questions. It is very daunting. It's really hard to try and tell everyone how brilliant you are. We're not natural. Human beings are not natural at constantly posting, constantly communicating, constantly telling everybody, please listen to me, please listen to me. And that's a very hard thing to do. I think my biggest piece of advice is to start small. Don't try and take on too much in one go. And especially in terms of being a musician and trying to find your way out there, because yes, we all know there is a ridiculous number of records that are released every single day, and to try and make yours heard over everybody else's is really hard. So start small and build, whether that's starting small geographically, and you're starting in terms of live music within a certain town. You can try and build upon things very slowly. Social media, start with one platform, one that you think you've got a core audience on, and then you can build upon that and go into other types of platforms. Don't try and have a presence across everything straight away. One, it'll be too diluted, and two, your message won't be strong enough. So I would always say start small and build upon it slowly. If it gets overwhelming, take a step back. I don't mean to sound rude, but there aren't many people out there in the big wide world bated waiting with bated breath to hear from you. When your message is ready, when you're ready to communicate, they'll be listening. So yes, if you need to take some time out, loads of artists do it. Loads of artists take time out from tours. Loads of artists take time out from social media because it is exhausting. There's been a lot of talk recently about artists who are signed to major labels who have all said, I didn't sign up to be a social media manager. I'm an artist, I'm a creator. I write songs, I perform. And unfortunately now in this day and age, that is part of the job description, is social media about engagement. Pre the digital era, we didn't have this problem because it was all promoted on print and on radio, and you have people who did that for you. It's a very different time now. But if you do get overwhelmed, because as we all know, it can be, one, a scary, daunting place, but also people find freedom of speech on social media quite open, and they can be quite nasty. Always take a step back and don't take things too seriously. It's just a media platform.
Thank you. Sorry, I was on mute. We've had a couple of questions about sponsored posts or paid promotion. Do you think it's worth music professionals thinking about paid promotion on social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, etc.? And if so, how should people go about that?
Okay, yes, absolutely. Sponsored posts are key. They're a key marketing tool. I need to explain there are two types of sponsored posts. You have one as the creator of content where you are promoting something for yourself, whether that's a live show, whether that's a release, whether that's something that you do, if you're a teacher or whatever it is, you can pay to put that post in front of people. That is a sponsored promotional post. And that's your content going out to an audience. You can pick your audience through like we discussed in the webinar, demographic, location, age, interests. You can even go down to picking people who like David Bowie, or somebody who I don't know, is into underground hip hop. Whatever it might be, you can post directly to them, and it's a good way to reach an audience at a reasonable price. Because digital advertising and digital sponsorship is fairly reasonable in terms of reach. But the other side of sponsored posts are effectively your influencer, whereby if you have a big enough following, sorry, I've done a lot of talking. If you have a big enough following and you have a lot of people watching what you do, brands can then come and want you to be an influencer, and you get paid to do sponsorship content. You'll see a lot of this online where you have different influencers, whether they're Facebook, YouTube influencers, musicians. They can be talking about hair products. They can be talking about instruments. They can be talking. That's another side of sponsorship where you are paid effectively to endorse another brand. And you'll always see it because on social media now, it's a legal requirement that people actually post on the top and say that this is sponsored content. So people don't think it's just genuine content that someone's thought about, that people need to know whether you're being paid to talk about something. I hope that answers the question.
I think so, yeah. We've also had a couple of questions about TikTok and Instagram Reels. Someone live on the webinar and someone in advance asked basically, is this necessary? Do people need to think about TikTok and Reels? Or, if you're not comfortable with those platforms, is it okay to stay off them? I think that's probably a question that's on quite a lot of musicians' minds. I know there are increasing numbers of people on TikTok. However, do we need to be on there?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat myself on what I've said so much through the webinar. You've got to think about your audience. Who is your audience and where are they? And like I said right at the beginning, don't stick up a website and expect the world to notice it, because they won't. You need to go to where your audience is. If you're a musician, if you're an artist, and your audience, and we know, it's a younger demographic on TikTok. If your audience is on TikTok, you can't afford not to be on there. I'm sorry, as a marketeer, that's what I'm going to say. Reels are exciting. It means that you can pre-record video and then upload, make them exciting, add bits in, effects, and all these sorts of things. It's good for engagement with a certain audience. So I'm sorry, people might want me to say, don't worry about it, don't do it. I'm not going to say that, because it is about an audience, and you've got to meet the audience where they are. So yes, reels are important if that's the demographic you're going for. I'm sorry if that's not the answer. Some people want it.
I think it's a good answer. And I would also add to that it is the way things are going. So, increasingly more and more people are on TikTok, and increasingly Instagram are prioritizing video content. So, you may not need to be there now, but I think it's always worth thinking about these things, because you may want to start doing that in future. So just being aware of trends is important, I would say. We also had a question kind of linked to what you were just saying about audience. In terms of getting to know your audience, what are some good ways to find out more about them? So how do you actually go about finding out where they are, who they are, those kind of questions?
So right at the beginning of the webinar, one of the things I said was put yourself in their shoes, think like them, which I know is far easier said than done, but it's almost about taking some time out, step back, and just think about, I don't know, you want to find a parent, what do they do? Where are they? You want to find a student, think like a student. We're all at different stages in our lives. Some of us have been students before. Some of us aren't parents, but we were trying to identify where they are. Really, the best thing to do is take a step back, but also ask people. If you're not sure, ask. It's one of the key things in marketing. We do so much market research, and information is so important. It's so valuable. So if you're not sure, feel free to ask. You can always ask groups, ask other musicians, ask other people you work with. Just ask. And if you can, start thinking like they think. So remember what it was like to be an 18-year-old student or 19-year-old student going to university. Think about, one, the stresses of income, how much fun you can have, how much a pint of beer is. All those sorts of things make up who the person that you're trying to identify is. If you're thinking about parents, if you want to be a teacher, if you're a teacher in a school, think about how you communicate with people, how much time people have, what's the prioritized between, think about their day, their structure, whether they're driving on the school run, whether they've just got the kids home and little Johnny's off to football, whether now they've got to feed everybody, or now it's bedtime routine. Because people haven't read your email doesn't mean they're not going to. You've got to think about what your audience is currently doing. Think about a day in the life of, is the easiest way to understand. And then you can start identifying, how do you get in front of them? I hope that helps.
I think so. And I would add to that, analytics are really useful. So, Beth was saying information is important. So some basic Google Analytics will tell you some details about, which location your people are coming to your website are in. And their age, etc. So you can look at Google Analytics. You can also look at social media analytics. All of the major social media platforms have analytics functions that will give you demographic information about your audience. And as Beth said, just ask. So you can poll your customers, your audience, your fans, and ask them questions. Things like SurveyMonkey can be really useful for surveying the people who are interested in your products.
Absolutely. And the other thing, Ruth, just to add to that, is on your social media, you will get analytics to show you which posts have engaged best, which posts have had the best reaches, which hashtags are working. And you can also see I've posted a load of words, no one bothered reading it, no one liked it. I posted a video, 100 people clicked like, and there's someone shared it. You can see automatically what kind of content is engaging with your audience. And don't take that sort of information for granted, because that will really help you.
Great. We had a really interesting question about networking. So somebody's asked, how do we prepare a 60-second pitch for introducing ourselves during networking? So your elevator pitch, how do you go about thinking about what should be in there?
That's a great question. Wow, it's a bit like how do I best interview? That's really tricky. I think it obviously depends on what environment you're in. I mean, if you're at a networking event and everyone knows that they're there to network, you can effectively go up to someone and say, hi, who are you? What do you do? I think in other situations, maybe be a little bit cautious as to how much you bombard someone with your information. Remember to try and make networking a two-way communication. A lot of people don't just want to be talked at and told about how brilliant you are. They want to engage both directions because they're networking too. And it's about building relationships. Interestingly, yeah, the word networking is quite harsh. I always like to think the music industry is built on relationships. The whole thing, whatever aspect of the sector you work in, whether you're behind the scenes doing marketing or A&R, artist and relations, accounting, whether you're the musician at the front of a rock band, whether you're a teacher, whatever it is, relationships are key. And being personable, being approachable, I think is more important than how you're actually going to pitch. Does that make sense? I think if you can engage with someone and they want to listen to what you've got to say and you want to listen to what they've got to say, your job is done because you are building a relationship. And that is the most important thing within networking. And always treat other people as you want to be treated. That's really key. Yes, because the industry is built on these relationships.
Yeah. Be nice is a great.
I can't give anyone a script. I can't tell you to say, hi, I'm Johnny and do this. It doesn't work like that because you've also got to gauge the room. And what I mean by room is gauge the situation that you're in. It might be very, very formal, pass business cards, but it's more than likely within this sector going to be more a drink, a pub, a gig, post gig, a social sausage roll sort of affair. So yes, be personable.
Absolutely. And I think always remember to follow up afterwards, whether it is a business card or just taking someone's email down on your phone and just making sure that you do that follow up.
Yeah.
We are running out of time. I'm going to ask one more question before we finish, because there was a question about composers and if you have any specific advice for composers and songwriters, because I know, marketing for composers and songwriters can be slightly different to performers and artists. We did mention, I think there was a link in the chat about some composer opportunities that the ISM has on its website, so do check out that page. But Beth, have you got any specific advice?
Well, not specifically for composers. I think the best thing, I mean, we've just talked about networking. I think the thing with writers is spending a lot of time where other musicians are, where other composers are. I mean, the world of writers and composers comes an awful lot from publishing. So keeping on top of trends that are happening in publishing, networking events that are happening in publishing, those sorts of things are really important. Co-writes, one of the biggest things, and actually I didn't touch upon this for a writer, one of the most important things you would have seen over recent years, one of the biggest trends that hit since the digital age with streaming is co-writes. And if you look at the top of the singles chart, the majority of them are co-artists co-writing. And because of that, one of the biggest things is, one, it's streaming, it's a one track, bringing in the number of streams, but also it's about diversifying audience. So if you can collaborate and work with like-minded musicians, like-minded composers, and collaborate in terms of writing, that can really help you. And it also keeps you in touch with what's going on. If you're published, always communicate and speak with your publisher. If you're not published, keep up to date with trends and what's going on. Make sure you know what's being performed in certain venues. Going to where session musicians are, recording studios, performance houses, and things like that is really key also, to be able to know what's going on and putting yourself out there.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. We had a lot of questions in this webinar, but if you have specific questions, we can try and follow up with you afterwards. And feel free to email us if you want to get in touch. So it's inquiries@ismtrust.org if you want to send us an email. So all that's left is for me to thank Beth very much for that fantastic presentation, and to all of you for joining us. I hope you found the session informative and useful, and that you've come away feeling more empowered. I certainly picked up lots of things there that I'll find useful in my role. Please do fill in our post-webinar survey, which we put a link to in the chat. I will also email this to you afterwards. And as we said, we'd really appreciate your feedback. It helps us to improve our services in the future. The recording will be sent to you by email, and it will be available to watch back on our website. And you'll also find other recordings of webinars in our cost of living crisis series, such as financial well-being and staying well and healthy in the cost of living crisis. We are putting on a pensions webinar for ISM members on the 18th of January. So if you're interested in finding out more about pensions and planning for retirement, please do sign up for that. And if you wish to keep up to date with upcoming ISM Trust events and resources, as well as news, you can sign up to our monthly newsletter. And I think there is also a link to that in the chat. So finally, can I just say thank you very much again for watching, and we hope to see you at another ISM Trust event soon. Goodbye.